this is Wade, and you are with Wade, and this is Wade World. Today, we're going to talk about the biggest version of an invasion, inflation. And if you're wondering, what is this boring stuff my government keeps talking about? It's basically destroying your money. Doesn't sound so boring now, does it? You're with Wade. So, if the government, even as a teenager, early 20s kid, if the government comes out and tells you, the government comes and says, hey, we're going to have inflation at 2.5%, you're like, yeah, it sounds boring. I got other stuff to do, right? I got to go to the bar. I got to go here, have fun. But if the government comes out and tells you, we're going to destroy the currency by 2% next year, you'll be like, whoa, hold on a second. What? Why are you telling me this? Why are you saying we're going to destroy the currency 2% next year? And after 50 years, the currency is destroyed. So how are you going to keep destroying it? Welcome to inflation. Throughout history, by the way, we have not had billionaires and trillionaires, not because human beings have never been this successful. That's bullshit. We've never had billionaires and trillionaires because throughout history, the punishment for destroying the value of a currency was death. Yes, it was death. People were killed for it, executed for it, because destroying the currency destroyed the kingdom and the people. Right? Now, it is the national policy of almost all democracies in the world. And why this is evil is because they try to BS you with, oh, without inflation, if you have fixed money supply, people don't spend. Well, how have we been spending and building great monuments for thousands of years? Retard liars. Inflation is literally the number one weapon of the enemies of mankind so far today. What inflation does is it prints money that is unrelated to your labor. And then it gives those money. You don't get the check, by the way. When your government says inflation is going to be 2%, but your government prints money, you don't get a check. Here's some extra money for you because we destroyed your currency. The people connected to the government get that money first, the banks. Then they can buy up all the stuff that you want, and it trickles down very slowly to you. And by the time it trickles down to you, you can't afford anything because the people who got it first bought up everything. That is one of the simplest explanations of why this was punishable by death. Because it's evil. It's girly men strategy. It's underhanded. It goes hand in hand with central banking and income taxes. Because every single year, they are making your money more worthless. They just don't want to admit it, so they call it inflation. We're going to have inflation, like they're inflating a balloon. Now, this is an excellent understanding of how inflation actually, and we're going to go through it.
Can you tell which chocolate bar is the smallest? You might think it's number 2, but actually numbers 2 and 3 are the same. Subscribe and turn on your notifications.
Click to the end.
But it's harder to tell with number 3 because of how the chocolate numbers both are 25% smaller than number 1. But it's harder to tell with number 3 because of how the chocolate has been distributed. It's this sort of underhand tactic that makes it hard to, which is spreading throughout our supermarket aisles.
Did you see that? So, we are literally living through something that is destroying your ability to purchase things. But you're not told about it. Remember you told the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell? Well, Wade loves biology, but Wade didn't want to become a doctor and has not. Wade has more medical knowledge than most of these retards that go to university and call themselves doctors, but most of the knowledge that you were taught was either fake and false. Example, World War II, the history of World War I and World War II. Or it's designed to make you a slave, a compliant slave. That's why nobody teaches you about inflation and economics and finance. It's considered, it's boring. Commerce, it's boring. Because the world is run by financiers and the world is our or its actual practical skills, men building a fire, building shelter, hunting, growing food for women, the family together, communication skills, social skills, cooking, cleaning, keeping everything organized, childcare, right? And inflation is a huge part of it. Now, why is inflation a huge part of it? As you can see in this particular scene, these things keep getting smaller. But have you ever observed this thing getting smaller in large quantities? Have you observed a pattern of this? That things are getting smaller and their prices are also dropping. You're like, wait a minute, not really. I've only seen the prices go up, but I didn't know the things were getting smaller. Yes, because they removed the earlier things. This is over decades. You see that? 80s, 90s, the aughts. Now, this is 10 years, 10 years, 10 years. You think a kid going to a candy store in 2015 or 2025 understands or even remembers what their parents as kids went to the candy store to buy in the 2000s or 90s? They don't. But the prices keep going up and the quantity keeps going down. So this is inflation. This is looting. Inflation is looting. They're looting from you, they're stealing from you. The prices keep going up, the quantities keep going down. Now you'd be like, why would they do this? Use your brain, right? The reason they would do this is precisely to loot from you. If your grandfathers or great grandfathers ever easier time finding a job, buying a home, having a wife, having children, supporting all of them. Now you can't find a job, you can't settle down. On top of that, if you're in European countries, you have an unlimited number of invaders under the name of immigrants coming in and fucking up your country. And who is funding them? Your government. How are they funding them? Inflation. What this video doesn't go into is the fact that inflation was considered the enemy of mankind and the enemy of people throughout history. Because what they're doing is basically, as they are destroying your currency, you need more of it to repay the debt-based system that destroys the currency. And you know who repays that debt? Your taxes. So your currency becomes more worthless, your taxes keep growing up. Do you understand? This is a gentle raising up of a slave class. You're a slave. You have no life. You don't have the time or money to start a family, to have a normal life, to enjoy your life. It's work slave, so you can afford to live in a shit box, eat shit food, and then die. Inflation is the destruction of your currency. This destruction is the key. It's not just about these food packets, it's about a lot more. Video.
To everything from toilet roll to Toblerones. So why are products getting smaller?
It's not complicated. That's a joke.
I look through all the cabinets in my house. I find a Cadbury cream egg
That's
from a couple years ago.
person to have on the screen. This is the joke.
Noticed a classic egg had clearly shrunk. Yet in the FAQs on the Cadbury's website at the time.
So you can read all of this. It doesn't really matter to wait. But the end result of all of these things is very simple. Slavery, you were told, was abolished. Feudalism, you were told, was abolished. Now, feudalism was a system where there were peasants, yeomen, nobility, and the monarchs, and everybody had their place in the system. And if you wanted to enter the nobility, you had to contribute massively to your own people and to your own kingdom, and then you were given that honor. There was a path, there was a structure. Now, because 80% of human beings are NPCs, that was destroyed. Like, oh my God, feudalism, oh, the slave, everybody's a slave at present. Oh, it's so evil. You got to destroy it. But what was destroyed was the fact that your currency was not destroyed. It was gold. It held value, right? The people who ruled you, your kings, your aristocrats, were your people, your blood. Regardless of your race, it was your people. Now, you were jealous because obviously in every society, the people who have the ability to rule are a much smaller percentage than the people who do not. And with benevolent rulers, which is most of the time, these people have a normal life. So you were told, oh, these look at how the kings are enjoying themselves. We need to destroy them. So you were used to destroy your own people and the best of your own kind. The name for kings was sire, which also is the name for the father of the people. So the sire is like the father of the people. It is a honorific for the kings and emperors. So you were very happy. You got democracy. Yay! I got to vote. I have power. You don't really. Every single time there is someone who's actually a threat, he's either assassinated before he gets to the podium, assassinated while he's in the position, or after he's left the position and successfully fended off assassinations. The next guy is controlled and threatened. This goes back to you becoming the slave again. Just this time, instead of being a peasant to people who are your own blood and who have some duty and feeling towards you as their own people, now you're going to be slaves and peasants to girly men, Jews at the apex, and a bunch of other people whose only religion is money. They don't care if you're white, yellow, brown, black, purple, blue, red. You could say, oh, it's the bankers. So bankers, who are the actual control to a banker and punch them in the face? That's going to do nothing by them. That is why Jews screech so loudly about, oh my God, don't talk about Jews being in control of everything. It's anti this and that. And in fact, Jews are great at this. They've made themselves at the bottom. We're the biggest victims. We can't be at the top while being at the top. So if you don't even know who is at the top, how are you going to destroy the people who are turning you into slaves? Because you don't know your slave masters. That is inflation. Now, this video might go
time. In answer to why the size had changed, it said, it hasn't, you've just grown.
Do you see the amount of lies and gaslighting that these people do? Because they are counting on you to be too tired under their system of enslaving you to actually notice what is going on in the world. This is the actual truth. Now, for those of you who must be thinking, oh, life isn't that bad. I got money. It's fine. I live in a cool country. Here's a fact for you. How much tax are you paying? For example, just as an example, you know what the Egyptian slaves that the Jews are always moaning about? Do you know how much the worst of them paid in taxes? That means they were specially singled out. Like, you guys are dicks. You're going to pay more tax. Do you know how much they paid in tax? Maximum 20%. Russia is better than ancient Egypt, and you guys are paying more tax about it. Like, if WAYDE said Iranians were at the apex of paying taxes, they'd just be like, all right, cool, bro. If WAYDE said the Chinese are at the apex of the people you're paying taxes, the Chinese will be like, cool, all right. If you said the Russians or the Germans or the Americans were at the apex of paying taxes, they'd be like, believe what you want, bro. Good for you. That's just stupid. But if you say the Jews are at the apex of you paying taxes, oh my God, you are an anti-Jew hater. You're all the way from Jesus Christ to Hitler, right? Everybody, Genghis Khan, everybody who hated Jews, Edward I in England, right? Louis XIV, everybody, even the ancient Greeks, Moses from Egypt, expelled from Egypt, even the ancient Egyptians and the Mesopotamians, all Jew haters, bro. It's like, if you haven't done the deed, why are you so touchy about people talking about it? If the Iranians are not guilty, or the Russians are not guilty, or the Americans are not guilty of looting people's taxes in the shadows, they don't screech about it. And if they were guilty, that is exactly how they would behave. They'd be like, oh my God, you're anti-American. Oh my God, you're anti-Russian, anti-Chinese, anti-Iranian. No, man. The guilt is there. That's why you screech so much. This is an invasion at a very high level of intelligence, by the way. The average person understands money only when it starts to hurt. For example, WAYDE gives the example of Africa. Africans have the lowest, most African nations, average IQ of all the races in the world. So they saw this Jewish system, central banking, income tax, and destruction of currency. And they were like, yo, we're going to speed run it. So in a couple of years, they have hyperinflation, like billions of percent, lower IQ, right? And the people, they're stupid, but they're like, you know what? This currency the government is giving me is worthless because I get it in the morning and it's worthless by the evening. So I should switch to another currency. It's not the adoption of alternate currencies in Africa is because they're smarter. It's because they're stupid, but they're at the brunt of an evil, more stupid government. And currency, money, when you can't eat, when you can't buy things, it hurts. That's the entire purpose of currency, is to be able to make it easier to exchange goods and services. Otherwise, you can just take away currency. You can just exchange your services for something to eat, right? The other countries which are slightly higher IQ speed run it in 10, 20 years, and then they're hyperinflation. And the highest IQ countries, where our friendly little shlomos are, right? They run it over centuries. So it's so slow. It's so slow, the destruction of your currency. But even then, if you look at the American dollar, in the 1913, the private Jewish Federal Reserve was established in America. The value of the dollar has fallen by more than 99% in 113 years since then. So they're smarter, they're slower. Who's going to remember what stuff cost 100 years ago? People don't even remember what it cost 5 years ago or 10 years ago. So inflation is an invasion of a very, very high level.
Up. Shrinkflation has become a widespread economic tactic. Between 2012 and 2017, 2,529 products shrunk in the UK while staying the same price.
This is you. When you understand the world you are living in. You are not living in a futuristic utopia where people are going to go to Mars. You are living in a futuristic dystopia where the people who rule you hate you. And the ruling class is made up of people who consider themselves, strategically for them, the chosen people who are better than everybody else. They have nothing to do with you. They don't give a damn about you, whether you are Nordic or African, whether you are Korean or American. They do not care, because if you're not them, you're cattle. You're going. And inflation is the biggest way they destroy you. Wade is going to end here and give you a little bit of homework. Turkey is a country that has been very resistant in the Middle East to Israeli pressure on it to just go along with what Israel says. And Turkey is a strategic partner because this is basically a bunch of Turks who converted the Byzantine Empire to Islam. But the genetic makeup of this country is still Greek. Their own DNA tests tell them. And this was the Eastern Roman Empire, the Eastern Catholic Church. So there is a strategic importance to Turkey for Russia as well as America. Well, because Turkey didn't bend the knee to the Jews in Israel, their currency has gone from 7 of their currency being equal to $1 to 44 of their currency being equal to $1 in 7 years. This is abnormal, by the way. Their currency has fallen 600% in 7 years. But this is quite normal when you understand that this entire system of destroying the people's monarch and leaders, destroying their aristocrats, destroying their people, replacing them with central banks, currency destruction, inflation, and income taxes is just a system where everybody is following the same system. Everybody is buying each other's debt. Countries are lending each other money. And then what do countries do when you don't repay them? They don't just write it off. They're like, we're going to invade your ass because you owe us money. This is the reality of the world. Turkey's currency has been attacked for 7 years because they won't go with what the Jews want them to go with in the Middle East. As has Lebanon's, as has Egypt, Morocco's, Iran's, Syria's, this is Libya's, Sudan's. You can just go through history if you have that bent of mind and see. Inflation is an invasion. The central banking system is an act of war against the people. Central banking is literally the act of war against the people. And every single government that comes to realize it and nationalizes its central bank, that means private bankers, Jews don't own it, is immediately considered a threat by all the rest of the countries. But they can't tell you why it's a threat. They can't say, you know what, we changed the government in Ukraine, and the next day we flew in planes, took all their gold out of the country before the new government was formed. Why? Why did you do that? We destroyed the government in Libya, and the next day we flew in, we took the gold out of the country before we changed the government. Why'd you do that? We destroyed the government in Iraq and Afghanistan, and we flew in planes to Iraq and Afghanistan, took out the gold before we changed the government. Why did you do that? Because today, as always, apart from Bitcoin, gold is something that they cannot print indefinitely. There's a limited supply of it. It's a hard currency. Look at the price of gold today. It's crazy high. Why? Because these people have been shorting it. That is, selling fake amounts of gold via futures contracts. This is another financial thing. You can look it up. Futures contracts, how these futures markets allow you to bet on 1,000 times more of something than exists. Doesn't make sense, does it? If only 10 apples exist, how can you bet on 10,000? Well, it's a war. Inflation is invasion, and central bank is the enemy's temple, literally. This is an enemy's synagogue, right? They just set it down and they're like, all right, you guys, all right, you sheep, we're gonna couch it in nice ways. We're gonna make you have fun while we turn your women into whores, childless whores. We turn your men into homosexuals and degenerates, and we're gonna turn all of you idiots into slaves. And when we finally end this program, we'll have all the money with which we will buy all the resources, the armies, the weapons. So you won't even have money to arm yourselves and defend yourselves. And you will be slaves forever. Inflation is invasion, and you have been invaded. Until next time, keep it cool, keep it simple, and even in these trying times, try to enjoy.